Okay, I wanted to go over a 12 by 18 floor sander. It's a Clarke Orbital floor sander. Let's see here. The things that you would need to operate this are a red pad that goes in between the black pad that's attached to the machine and then your sandpaper. So you need a 12 by 18 sheet of sandpaper. We typically use 36 grit, 60 grit, and then 80 grit. And these pieces of sandpaper will just have a film that you peel off, and then it's sticky on the back. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like to apply. The other thing you would need is an extension cord, possibly. This is probably a 25-foot extension, so it works probably for about 75% of the situations, but if you need an extension, you have to use this green extension cord that we have. You wouldn't want to use one of the smaller extension cords. You need something with a thicker gauge that's going to be able to handle the amount of power this thing's going to suck up. And that's about it. There's also a bag that goes on the end here, but we typically don't use it for deck sanding or for sanding a deck. So I'll take the camera and I'll kind of walk you through what that looks like. Okay, so I got that sander just tipped on its back here so I can show you some of the parts. This would be that black pad. Usually lasts about a season. This is sticked on with a really strong adhesive. It's really hard to get off, but you basically just peel it off and pull it and just kind of wedge like a 5-in-1 in there to get it ripped off, and then you would spray goof off adhesive remover on there and scrape it off and clean it off, and then just stick a new pad back on here. You'll know when that black pad is worn out. Those little nubs start to get worn down and smooth, and it won't hold the red pad anymore. And the red pad, when you're using it, will start to slip off. You can prevent that by making sure that you replace the red pad probably 2 or 3 times during a deck floor sanding. You don't want to wear through that red pad and start flattening out those nubs, because then you'll end up having to replace that black pad sooner than we would like. So that's how you would know when it needs to get replaced. And then these would go on here like this. You'd have your red pad that would stick on there like that. And then you would have this piece. When after the adhesive is removed, you would just stick it on there like that. The one other piece that kind of wears down over time is these rubber, basically washers. There's 4 of them, 2 on the back side as well. Usually lasts about a season, but when those start to wear down, the machine will knock really bad. It'll have a really loud sound to it as you're trying to operate it. That means that this panel will need to get taken off, and these washers will need to get replaced. The other piece would be, this would be like a reset switch. This has a fuse inside that would get set off if it's not getting adequate supply of power, and it would pop the breaker here. So you would have to press that down if that were to happen. And you would know by pressing the trigger. If nothing happens, then that may have popped. So I'm going to go through an example of just what it's like to get it started. All right, so I got this plugged into the wall here. I would typically always start with the surface, with the sandpaper off the surface that I'm trying to sand. You press this top button right here, and then you pull the trigger. You pull either trigger, either one would work. And as it's going, you set it down on the surface. It helps, this fell off, but it helps when you put this on to kind of move it around the surface like this. Get it really intertwined in those spikes there. And then also rest it on the ground. Kind of do the same thing. Get that really worked in there. And then it would be ready to go. That's pretty much how you use the orbital floor sander.